This video is brought to you by paid sponsorship from Fable Maker's Animated Tarot Deck by Hitpoint Press. There is a secret intended mechanic, which some people sometimes talk about, but it's never directly outlined in any of the books. It has to do with free object interactions. Many tables just sort of hand wave picking stuff up and putting stuff down, or even switching weapons. Other tables require an action for practically everything. Open a door, pick up a can of beans, press a button, eat an entire chicken, plot to overthrow the DM, put out a torch. And while those two different ways to deal with it are fine, I guess they're not good. They're not a good way to do this. There is a real, it's all fake. There is an official approach. When you pick something up, pass something to another person, open a door, close a door, or use a non-magical object, it takes a free object interaction. People familiar with older editions often call it a free action, which doesn't exist anymore, but whatever you call it, you're only allowed to have one free object interaction on your turn, and it's taken as part of either your action or your movement. So if you have neither an action nor movement in your turn, you probably can't do your free object interaction. But if you do, and you'd like to do more than one of these free object interactions in a turn to, say, switch weapons by sheathing one and drawing another, it would require your full action. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Dropping something is not listed in the PHB as a free object interaction. This isn't because dropping something is intended to be an action, nor is it because it was forgotten or an unimportant example of free object interactions. In fact, according to J.Craw, he whose rulings we hold holy, unless we disagree with them, the intent was to require nothing, not an action nor a free object interaction in order to drop something. And this honestly makes sense. You're probably asking yourself, why would something like this matter? You've been talking about this for longer than you talked about Fireball. Well, that's because in D&D and in life, what's in your hands is super important. To use a shield, a magic item, or a weapon on your turn, it needs to be in your hand, obviously. Which, like, if you only use one single-handed weapon, no problem, just draw it. That's part of the attack, who cares? But it does cause problems if you sword and board or dual wield, and you need a hand free to cast a spell that has either somatic or material components. Also, different monsters sometimes require different kinds of weapons. So being able to drop a weapon at no cost means you could feasibly drop a sword, do your somatic bullshit, and pick the sword back up. If you got into melee too quickly, you could drop your crossbow and pull out a hammer. I think that DMs might reasonably start to rule this as difficult terrain, that was Elliot's idea, or roll to see if weapons get damaged, if you're like constantly tossing them on the ground. Dropping a loaded crossbow also, for instance, might be a poor choice. So that's the secret intended mechanic. Here's a printed, probably unintended mechanic. And that is that handing someone something on your turn is listed as a free object interaction for you, not for them. That means if you have two NPC squires, if you drop your stuff during your turn, you can change your loadout in between turns. Beyond being practical, it would be so stylish. Oh, also just a heads up, shields are armor, so they don't count as a normal object. They always take an action to doff or to don. Thanks for watching this video, brought to you by paid sponsorship from Fable Maker's Animated Tarot Deck. It's got a guidebook on how to use it as a sort of storytelling prompt for 5e games, but also it's just a really rad looking tarot deck. Look at this. It's beautiful. Check it out at animatedtarot.com, links in the description.